Hello, everyone. Welcome to this presentation today, where we're going to look at business advisory services implementation training relative to business health checks for pharmacies in particular. Mark Holton, the Director of Smith Inc., is joining us soon in this webinar, but we will get started. If you have any questions during the webinar, can you please type your question in to your computer into chat, and I will answer your questions later in the webinar. Let's look at business advisory services in operation. What's it really need? I think it means that accountants need to dig down into what is happening in the client's business. And the business health check package, which ESS BIZTOOLS has developed, is an ideal tool to assist you to dig down, because you need to know the questions to ask to get the answers, and to then analyze those answers to be able to give feedback and comments to your clients. A key requirement for a scaling up system, that's a business that's wanting to grow, and really that should be the aspiration for all of your business clients, because standing still, marking time is really not an option. Businesses need to grow, to rejuvenate their team, their leadership team, their owners, their directors. Budgets need to be prepared for each business unit. A weekly report for each business unit. And the all-important key performance indicators need to be obtained for each business unit, but then they need to be evaluated to see what the results might be. The monthly financial accounts for each business unit. Not putting everything together into one consolidated profit and loss account, that really doesn't give us any sort of meaningful result. We need to segregate it so that the end figures can be analyzed, key performance indicators prepared that mean something. And this is what business health check's all about. You can't do that if everything's just put into one overall profit and loss account. And at the end of the month, we have monthly consolidated financial accounts that are being prepared. And the business health check report can then be processed monthly. And I'm going to show you the working infrastructure that we have developed to enable you to develop this sort of information for your clients. And a business review meeting, I think, should be held every month, where all of this information, everything else that I've got on that screen there at present, is then able to be analyzed to see what it is saying. We were having Mark. Mark hasn't joined us yet, so we will.
I'm here, Pete.
Oh, you're there, Mark. Okay.
Yes, here. Just sitting here listening intently, Pete.
Okay, well, you've got to go more than listen now. You've got to speak. I'm going to put you across. G'day, Mark. How are you?
Good, thanks, Peter. Yourself?
I'm very well. I was worried that you might have been held up in one of your lockdowns or some of those things in Sydney.
A couple of technical IT issues here, Pete.
Oh, you having them too?
Earlier, but apologies for that.
That's all right. We've had one of them since Friday night. So if you send us an email up until this morning, we haven't got it yet. Okay, Mark. So business advisory services that adds value to a client's business. It's a common theme that I know that you are very interested in. How do you think accountants should go about this, and what should they be looking for?
It's a good question, Peter, and it's one of the age-old questions that I hear and I've heard for quite a long while. I made the progression into advisory services roughly 25 years ago, not because anybody said it was a good idea. I just happened to see something and think I could do that, or at least I'd like to try it. Over the early stages of my firm's development with advisory, we spent far too much time worrying about what I call transactional advisory, popping numbers into scorecards, having a bit of a chat about off data that was largely historical. When we started to think more about it and started to be more strategic, we then went to a more strategic advisory process where we had discussions with clients around where their business was, where they wanted to be in the future, how we're going to get them there, who's going to do it, when's it going to be done, and then when can we celebrate success. So we largely made a decision to change the model, change the focus, and have very much strategic discussions with clients first, and then support that with transactional type discussions a little bit later. One of the great challenges with advisory and getting it happen in an accounting firm is facing the reality that time is an issue. It can be used as an excuse, and often is. But at the end of the day, I've always believed if you want something done, ask a busy person. And when it comes to time, it really comes back to capacity. When it comes to capacity, it really comes back to commitment and how committed is the firm to be able to go out there and start to do more advisory work. And then, in my opinion, Pete, the three key things we've got to get right are systems, processes, and people. And there's 1,000,001 great systems out there. ESS BIZTOOLS have fantastic systems that can help firms get moving in the advisory space. And whilst that's so incredibly important and incredibly beneficial, ultimately, it will always come back to the people resources. And that is, do you have the right people? Do you know? Have you asked them? Have you spoken to them? I think one of the classic mistakes I've seen in my time consulting with accounting firms, Pete, and in my firm too, was Peter's a good accountant. Clients like him. He'll be a good advisor. But Peter's sitting there thinking, I don't want to do that. I enjoy what I'm doing. I don't want to do that advisory stuff because it's too unpredictable. Compliance suits me perfectly because it's very structured and very procedurally orientated, where B doesn't come, before A, it always comes after A. So in my mind, the right people are critical. If a firm doesn't have it, they've got to start looking outside. If the firm does have great staff, they've got to develop them. They've got to train them. They've got to give them a bit of lead time and lead process to succeed. And they've got to address the capacity issue with those key staff members, Pete. You can't take a busy person that's doing 90% compliance and say, do another 20%. It just doesn't work. So I suppose overwhelmingly, I think advisory is wonderful. I had a fantastic time in the last 25 years, working with about 4,000 of my clients, or 4,000 consultations with clients over that period of time. I spend a lot of my time now helping other firms start to go down that same pathway, using, largely the model that I used in my firm. But I wish I had some of the great tools that are available at the moment, much, much earlier in my career. Now, some of the fantastic health check tools and debt collection tools that ESS BIZTOOLS has, just to help the seamless delivery of the advisory services happen all that much better.
Yes, I know this is important, and this whole concept of employees, we have that, I think, covered in our training package, which is part of every package which ESS BIZTOOLS is selling subscriptions to. There's 13 modules there. And the key one is really getting feedback from the individual team member, the accountant or the marketing person, as to what do they really want to do. So we've developed a checklist there, which includes all of the taxation issues, auditing, insolvency, financial planning, and then goes into the business advisory services list. My observation is a lot of accountants, younger accountants, basically tick most of the business advisory services areas. But what some accountancy firms then find is a few weeks later into the training, which we recommend should be about an hour a week to get started, some of them start saying, oh, this is not for me, because they realize that, like everything in life, this can be a bit difficult, and you have to do some reading and studying and thinking, and go out and mix with your clients, go out to their premises. If they're running a butcher shop, or go out and have a look at it and see how it works. Or if they're running a boning room or whatever, or if they're running a tire replacement business, go and get a feel for it, because this is what the challenge is, isn't it? In all these services, we as a profession have to go beyond the financial accounts. We have to dig down to understand how everything fits together. Where are the costs? Where are the efficiencies?
Look, agree 100%. You know, the fact that some accountants from your experience are saying, yes, I'd like to do it, then later on are saying, well, maybe it's not my cup of tea, comes back to the fact that it's not structured. Also comes back to the fact that they're already busy doing what they're doing. And they're thinking, how the hell am I going to do this as well? So when that happens, naturally, you're going to take a backward step. Takes a rare person to power through that process and think, I'll just make it happen. You know, the structure in the firm is wrong if that's happening, because you're not creating success models for your team. You know, it's the key thing with some of the younger ones is they're perfectly aligned to do this, but often they're consumed in the compliance side of the business, and often they're not that keen on putting their hand up to say, I want to do something else, at least at that stage of their career. So I do think that firms need to start to dig in more intently with their staff members to talk to them about, you know, what they want to do. You know, I'll give you an example. Yesterday I had a discussion with a young guy who's been, you know, heavily involved with one of the big four firms in the insolvency side of things, and decided to go off and do a couple of other things in his career. And I had a discussion with him about what's next. Super keen on advisory, super keen, you know, and I think he'd be an ideal person to champion that in any accounting firm. But I speak to a lot of other young people too who are saying, well, look, I'm already busy. And some of them are saying, well, look, I'm already really happy doing what I'm doing. It's very difficult, Pete, to take someone that's happy doing what they're doing and say, let's do something different, unless there's a very good reason for it. I do agree with you 100% that we've got to look beyond the numbers. I mean, compliance is a profitable part of any accounting firm. It's not going to go away. So don't believe all the naysayers out there telling you compliance is dead, even though it is changing. As most people would know, in the UK, where they're making tax digital program, but that's taking longer than they expected, you know, and probably it will happen here, but heaven knows when. But until that time, I'm not a fan of waiting for the government to change something to get me engaged and get me wanting to do something different in my firm. I'm all about, let's do it now. Let's create a success model that if something does change in the future, it's really not going to matter that much to you, because you've got diversification in your income streams. You know, you're not reliant on too many, putting the eggs in the one basket type concept. Let's just take, you know, a few good clients that you've got, and let's just look to do something a little bit more with them. Not instead of, just a little bit more. Let's do it in a very systemized process, and let's build the infrastructure there so that whatever you do today can be replicated by somebody else at some stage in the future. I think that's the sweet spot we've got to get to.
Okay. To the people who are watching, if you watching live, that is, if you have any questions, can you please type them into your computer and send them in, and we will in the chat, and we will answer them later. If you're watching this later on in your own time, when we send the videos around, video links, you can email me your questions. Thanks, Peter, essassbiztools.com.au. And if you have a question for Mark, I will send that on to him.
More than happy, Pete, to answer any questions at all.
Thanks. So we'll just go back and continue on. And so the supplementary forms that are included in this package look at a whole range of things. And I'm going to show you some of these in a moment when we go onto the website. What if scenarios? Setting sales targets. Might sound pretty simple, but a lot of people aren't doing it. We've got a format for the calculation of future maintainable profits and a working capital evaluation form and a ratio analysis report. All items that you might be able to use. Within the business health check for pharmacies, what we're looking at is collecting the data that is required to make the system work. And we have a form for that. We call it BAS 401. Incidentally, our BAS, if you haven't watched one of our presentations before, is Business Advisory Service, not the tax office terminology. I think we had it first, actually. Worksheets. So there's a set of instructions, which I'm going to show you in a moment. And then there's a worksheet, which you would collect the data in. Now, some of this could be collected by your client. And that's how some of our accounting firm subscribers are doing this. The client is implementing a fair bit of the information, and then they are, the accounting firm is tidying some things up, really reviewing it, and then making sure the reports are able to be produced. And section 501 is the reports that are able to be prepared in the worksheet. So that's what we're going to show you. And we're now going to go on to the website, and I'll bring it up for you to look at. So what you should have now on your site is the members homepage of ESS BizTools. These details here on the left-hand side are the various product packages that are included within ESS BizTools. These are all part of our advanced package or gold package, as we had been calling it, which we've upgraded it to advanced. But there's individual packages that people can subscribe for if they wish. And these details here are really giving more information on particular packages. And what we're looking for, I'm looking for anyhow, is the starter package, because this is the package we're promoting at present. There's the training package that I referred to a little earlier. There's 13 modules that go through team training and leadership strategies, marketing, review of products, use of the SME needs analysis. We've got client seminars. So there's 12 client seminars that are already prepared. In the advanced package, there's 36, but there's 12 ready that are in the starter package. Looking at things like beginning of business management, bookkeeping, business management, firm foundations, management of the business, family businesses, buying a business, differentiating a business. They're prepared, ready for you to use. The PowerPoint slides are there, the handouts for you to send to your subscribers or prospects that are watching. We have 343 separate papers on 60 separate headings available, which a subscriber badges and sends to their clients. Client mentoring and coaching is a process whereby you would communicate with your client in a series of emails that you're sending to them over a period of 2 to 4 weeks. And they're on things like purchasing or commencing a business, introductory management, preparation of use of periodic accounts, family business. They're the ones that are included in the starter package. The Business Plus newsletter is prepared every month and includes information for you to send to your clients. You badge it, you send it round. And there's 6 articles in each edition, spread over startups, people wanting to scale up, people wanting to know more about succession planning and retiring, so that you could then hopefully decide which of your clients are interested in those particular subjects and follow them up. Debtors management, Australia's got the longest debtors days outstanding according to an international report. So we've got suggestions as to how debtors days outstanding might be reduced. Survival in difficult times is 38 questionnaires that then has commentary as to how your client might be able to overcome some of those problems, or you might use those comments to give the advice direct to your clients. It's up to you. And the one that I've been looking for is the industry specific advisory. And this is a charge out rates for tradies, retail calculator for retail and wholesale businesses to facilitate an analysis of their product mixes and markups to try to make sure they generate their profit target. Professional services is very similar to the tradie charge out rates, except it hasn't got provision for a markup on external purchases that a tradie generally makes for the benefit of their customer. And the one we're going to be after here is the business health check. So what I'm going to do is get the content. And the content I want is on the pharmacy. So we're going to go to the pharmacies. We can watch a video and there's a summary of what's included in the package. So I'm going to download that now. So that's now on your screen. There's a procedure control form. We have a document like this in each one of our packages. So you should now be able to see the procedure control form. I'll bring it back up, sorry. And I'll just now get that back to one page. The procedure control form is there just to guide you through the process, just to make sure that everything's been done to analyze various aspects of the business. So it's just a guidance form to assist you as you're going through this process. What you also have in this package is the SME needs analysis. I'll just bring that up so you can see it. This is a document that poses a lot of questions for you to analyze and discuss with your client. So an opening question, current business performance. How's the business going? You could sit down and ask your client that. Are they happy with the current performance? Now, most clients, when I ask them that, I get a whole host of things that they're not happy about. Now, that's your opener for areas that are of concern to them. And then we could look at business analysis and interpretation of financial results, their ratios. Have they got any questions there? Are they wanting to know more about key performance indicators? Do their team understand them? So the purpose of this document is for you to get feedback from what is of interest to the client. And that goes on a bit, but that's just the general introduction that I wanted to give you. So what I'm looking for now out of all this material is the business health check for pharmacy. This is on an Excel spreadsheet. This information here is the instructions, trying to define what the various concepts mean. And then we have the worksheet. So this is the information that you or your client would complete. And as I said earlier, a lot of this can be undertaken by the client. You would download this checklist document, BAS 401, to the client. They would start filling it in. And you're recording the number of days in a period. Now, this could be a week or a month, 3 months, 12 months. It's up to you. But in practice, I used a system, introduced a system like this many years ago before we had computers to help as such, for the meat company that I was a company secretary, CFO of. And we did this for hundreds of business activities all around the eastern states of Australia to keep track of what was happening. Now, this is one we've designed to suit a pharmacy, and it was based on a small pharmacy chain. They had about 6 pharmacies in operation, and they really wanted this. So it was designed to suit their requirements. But the sort of information you could record is virtually anything that the client thinks they might like some feedback on. So this particular pharmacy group operate in large shopping centres. So they wanted to know the number of shopping centre visitors, the people that walk through the outer doors into the public areas. And then they wanted to know the number of people that actually went into their store or their pharmacy, and how many customers or patients they got, how many prescriptions, and they wanted them separated between institutional prescriptions and non-institutional, because they had contracts with Medicare and various other government departments to supply prescriptions to people who were on some sort of national benefit. They wanted the internet sales recorded. They had a loyalty program, so they were recording the breakdown of what was going on in their business. And a lot of this information was coming from their cash register system, whereby it was then able to be summarized. They also wanted to know which postcode customers come from. So they were recording that. You could record that. And they then were asking customers things about why they went to them. Were they responding to a newspaper advertisement? Were they responding to their radio advertising? Or was it through some sports sponsorship of a football team or a basketball team or a netball team that they were sponsoring, and so on? Number of complaints that they got, number of suggestions they received. So that information was basically entered dependent on the period. Obviously, it's got to be recorded, but businesses really want to know this sort of information. So this was a way of getting it back for them. They then dissected their sales, the cash sales, credit sales, debtors, whatever the sales breakup was, and it was then dissected into the various components. The hours the pharmacy operated were recorded. The cost of goods sold was analysed. So this was looking at a business that had dissected its trading operations into each of these sales categories, and then they dissected them into the same way in cost of goods sold and gross profit as close as they could. They recorded the working owners of the principals and the owners, and then they analysed their employees. So this was the basic information getting fed into the system to enable the reports to be prepared. And I might just show you what the reports then looked like. So once that information was reported, was entered into section 401, in 501, the name of the pharmacy automatically come up. The sales were analysed between what had happened in the last period this report was prepared for, what had happened this time, what was the increase, what was the daily sales, what was the sales per full-time equivalent person, sales dissection based on a square meter basis, and so on. A whole range of information that then was recorded into an overall spreadsheet. So it was very obvious for someone glancing through it, or actually analysing it, to see, well, the average sale has been running at $27 for the last 8 weeks, and this week it's dropped to $18. Why? That's the obvious question. And this is the sort of work that really goes on in businesses, that when you're preparing annual accounts and tax returns, you don't see much of this as going on, but that sort of drop in sales, average sales, raises questions, or at least it should. And the same sort of thing for all of this. You're preparing this information so you can compare it to other information, and hopefully out of that, management gets the feedback. So where do you use it? I think it's a very important research document to be tabled at the monthly business review meeting, where the leadership team are present to analyse each individual performance. And the concern they will have is, where are the variations? If they've established that average sales is around $27 for a particular pharmacy and the gross profit rate is 64% or whatever, and there's changes, that's when management should have already determined the reason for that. If not, I'm sure the leadership team will be asking them to do so. So I'm going to stop there, Mark, and see if you've got any comments on this approach.
Absolutely, Pete. I think it's a great opportunity. Excuse me, just turning the video off. Just having a few issues with IT here, and didn't want to take up bandwidth. I think that structured process is a really helpful way of engaging clients, Pete. I also believe that a firm looking to get into a niche type arrangement, be it pharmacies, be it supermarkets, I think there's a wonderful opportunity there to specifically focus on key issues relating to that particular type of business. One of the greatest challenges, I think, with advisory is making the client feel that this is just for them, just for their business, just for their issues. So having specialist industry-like materials like what you've just demonstrated, in my mind, it can't make it more difficult to engage. It has to make it easier to engage.
You, I think, could benefit by linking this back in with benchmarking.com's reports, but we've got far more detail in this type of approach than what benchmarking.com's got. And that's because they're trying to do it on a far bigger base, and they're really looking at the key financial data. I think there's a lot of other key information though that management wants to know. They really do want to know what percentage of the people that went in the front doors of a shopping centre come to their shop. And where it means something is if they're running at 6% of the total visitors, and this week it's down to 2.5%, someone should be saying, well, what was different? Now, they may have found out that their major competitor at the other side of the mall had a major promotion on and had a personality there. Okay, that might be the reason, and they'd be hopeful that next week they'll return to 6%. But it's giving management that information that's very important. And traditionally, none of this is included in any sort of financial reports. The accounting function doesn't report this, but I can assure you, having been in that sort of corporate role for 11 years in a public company, it's what management wants to know. That's what they're zeroing in on. What caused changes? Things like average sales really don't vary from business to business, strange as it may seem, although you do have back pay weeks and non-pay weeks in various parts of Australia that can have a big bearing. And I've seen variations. I live in Townsville, so over the years when the military have had major exercises on, and we've been doing this exercise for some of our clients in nightclubs or bars or special restaurants that were frequented by the military, it's amazing what would happen if thousands of troops were out of town doing an exercise somewhere. It affects all sorts of information, but it's using that to be a conveyor of information to your clients. I think it's important for an accountant that's offering business advisory services. It gives you some ammunition. It's beyond the profit and loss account. It's really digging down into what makes this business, what makes it tick, I think. Is that how you see it, Mark?
Absolutely, Pete. I think you summarised it beautifully.
Okay, so what we might just...
If I could say one thing, Pete, I think a lot of businesses measure KPIs, but they're not measurement for measurement's sake. It's what are the key drivers I need to keep my eye on to ensure success in the business. And there's a variety of key drivers that will apply across the board to a lot of different industries, but every industry has its own specific, aura, its own specific point of measurement. And I think that's the key thing, to be able to look at things like you were talking about, the number of customers coming through the door, the average customer spend, and look to see why. I'm a big believer in looking at these things and applying a red flag, green flag type approach of green good, red not. But not just looking at it from a measurement point of view, looking at it from a strategic point of view, that if something isn't going the way I expected or something has moved, and then I'm on top of it. And that's what I know clients want from their accountants, to be able to provide these resources, this support, this guidance. So I agree 100%.
So currently we have 5 product packages built around our health checks. We also have supermarkets, as you mentioned, road transport, and 2 others. I should have had the list in front of me, but I can't. We're going to expand on that, a couple each year, and build that material up as to try to give firms that are really wanting to go into this niche market type approach with clients. We've been running another series of webinars in the last week built around a white paper that I've just written, which is looking at diversification for accountants. Why is it important? And one of the matters I mentioned there is the number of accountancy firms around Australia who have really targeted on key industries. And I've listed some of those industries: merino wool, cotton, beef cattle. And there's some firms, there's one in New South Wales that I first struck at Financial Management Research Centre many years ago, that had really pioneered on wool and beef and cotton. And they're now a leading firm, probably one of the big firms of New South Wales, especially in the regional areas, whereby they become absolute experts in anything to do with that particular industry. In fact, some years ago, I was a consultant for a major Australian government grant program called COMET, Commercialising Emerging Technology. And I had a client who developed a new type of process for the cotton industry. And when I researched some material on the cotton industry to substantiate his application to the Oz Industry Board to get approval for the funding, I found that the particular accountant that I'm referring to, accountancy firm, were undoubted experts in the cotton industry because they'd submitted a number of reports to a Senate inquiry into the cotton industry. So it's the way a firm can become very immersed in a particular industry. But when I researched that accounting firm sometime later, I found that they were doing a whole range of other things. They were still doing merino wool, they were still doing beef, and they were still doing broadacre farmers. So you don't have to just go in and say all you're going to do is cotton or a particular industry. You can still have others, but you need to have champions in those various industries, which is really using your accounting knowledge together with this ability to analyze what's happening within a particular business. And it's it is difficult to start with, but I think when you're watching this, you appreciate if this is where you're thinking of starting to offer these services, you've got to start somewhere. But please remember you've got to be delving down into the figures to get the answers. It's not just the profit and loss account and the balance sheet and the tax return that the client's really interested. If you're going to be offering these additional services, they want to know that you're analysing the nitty gritty of how all this fits together and where can improvements be made, where can costs be saved. That's really what the CEO is worried about. So hopefully that gives us something to think about in this overall area. And I'm just going to check, we got no questions. I'm just going to go back and move on a bit here, Mark, if I can. And so if you want to know more about delivering diversified business advisory services, our suggestion, unless you are already well on this journey, we're now suggesting to everyone to start on the starter package. It covers those training modules I referred to before. I think I've probably brought some of this up earlier, so I'll go through fairly quickly. The client seminars, access to papers, the Business Plus newsletter, you get that every month. The debtors management, survival in difficult times is a great workbook to work through with your clients. And there seems to be problems around Australia in some area every year. And obviously, we've now had it for 2 years with COVID-19. The tradies charge out rate calculator. Some of our subscribers swear this is the best product that they have in the system. And what it's led to is one firm working with over 100 tradies. They then imposed the rule on the tradies, and they all agreed that they would have monthly financial accounts prepared, would have a monthly business review meeting. So over and above the fees that were being paid for annual accounts and tax returns, they're now paying $5,000 to $7,000 each additional. So that firm has set up a nice little income earned out of tradies of $500,000 to $700,000 a year, and they think that can grow more. So it gives you some idea of what can be done. Someone rang me the other day after we'd had a webinar on that and said, well, I'm going to start. I got 20 tradies, and he now tells me he's got 12 of them come in on that type of system. So he helps them obviously establish that they're working to a formula to establish their charge out rates, and then assist during the year. So it's not a matter of setting any of this type of information up once and coming back to it again in a year's time. That's not the way commerce works in bigger companies. They're wanting to measure and manage on a daily basis, daily, weekly, monthly, and then again, daily, weekly, monthly. And that's the cycle that I honestly believe, if as accountants, we're going to be offering these types of services to our SME clients, we need to be offering to them. Now, it will vary, of course. Some won't need all that, but I wonder if they're people that should really be in your business advisory services group, unless they want that sort of material. The retail pricing calculator. So there's material there to assist you to guide your clients on their charge out rates or their retail pricing for a wide variety of businesses. And the business health checks that we've been going through today. There's also a SME debtor systems manual that's pre-prepared. The templates are all there. You can customize it to suit your particular client's requirement. There's also 4 leadership modules. In our total system, there's 16, but a starter package gets 4 of those. And we have 2 one-hour individual mentoring sessions, and we have some webinars each month. So that's the package. And that upfront, we normally charge $2,100 for that, but we've got a special discount for friends and associates of Smith Inc. And we've reduced that subscription to $900, including GST. And this offer's open until the 4th of October. It's primarily being offered to try to assist people who have been caught up in these lockdowns. And hopefully that helps. And if you are in a lockdown, we are thinking of you, and hopefully you'll be out of that problem situation in the near future. We also have a special offer from Smith Inc. that Mark's been able to offer, and this relates to the Young Gun Conference, which I understand is now going to be held in February. Mark, do you want to comment on this offer?
Yeah, thanks, Pete. Smith Inc. for many, many years, guys, as you might be aware, has run an event called Young Guns. It's for some of the younger, aspiring partners, managers, intermediates, seniors, and it focuses very heavily on skills-based learning, and those skills are not compliance skills, it's people skills. So we have people like Mandy Holloway doing sessions on leadership, on how to manage your teams. We have people like Steve Allen doing sessions on a session on how to present, how to ask the right questions, and how to provide the best go-to-market face towards yourself and your practice. We have sessions on advisory, on IT for the accounting industry, on mental health. So this is a 2-day event. It was due to run in October this year, but with COVID and the unknown factors of lockdowns and restrictions, we have to make the hard decision only late last week to move it to 21-22 February at the Hilton Hotel Surfers Paradise. The promotion I've got is that as any of the firms that are listening today or will be listening, if you have people that want to come to that particular event now in February, then we'll honour super early bird rates for Smith Inc. members. To find out more information, if you go to the Smith Inc. website, which is www.smithinc.com, and look for the Young Guns landing page, all the information there is about the agenda, the speakers, the fees, etc., etc. So if anybody is interested, please, as I mentioned earlier with my email address, mark.holton@smithinc.com, just reach out and I'll make sure that that particular discount and is available to anyone that's online today or will listen to this session.
Thanks, Mark. That was very generous of you and David Smith at Smith Inc. Thank you. Now, we also have other affiliates who are also offering packages as part of this promotion. So Blackstone Business Group, who are consultants on human resources, are offering a complimentary employment contract review or a reduced employment package for $399. Selling the Message is Brad Smart, and he will write or help you write your first customer email or newsletter. He's offering that to the first 10 firms from today who subscribe to ESS BizTools package, and you can select to have that offered. Cloud9 is Priscilla B. Smith, and she has a product built around CPD hours at a discount. All you've got to do is give them a review of the CPD hour course, and they will refund your small business concession course fee. Beyond Accounting Technologies, Paul Barnaby will undertake a review that normally costs $695 at no charge for the first 20 firms from today who have subscribed to ESS BizTools. And Amanda Gascoigne is an expert in small and solar practice. So she runs coaching sessions, no charge for the first 10 firms. So if you're interested in any of those extra add-ons, please go to our website where you can view the full details of them. So that's at www.essbiztools, and then click on learn more about the other ESS BizTools products. Then click on affiliates, and you'll be able to see all the details of our affiliates together with these special offers that they're making. And we're very thankful for the services that they're offering. And if you'd like to subscribe to ESS BizTools to take up this opportunity for this special $900 subscription for the starter package, or you're a more advanced firm, you might have a dozen to 20 staff and you're already offering some business advisory services. If you think you need all of the product packages that we have available, our special offer there is $3,000 for Smith Inc. Supporters and members and viewers here today. $3,000 instead of $6,500, and those figures all include GST. You can find all that out at our website and click on the subscription, and then please enter BASSMI. BASSMI, that's the discount code, which will get you that special offer for Smith Inc. supporters. If you need to contact me, please send me an email. And I'm going to go back to Mark now. Mark, if you don't mind just giving people your email if they want to contact you direct, please.
Sure, Pete. It's mark.holton, HOLTON, @smithinc.com.
And Mark, is there any final comment that you'd like to make to people viewing this live or watching it later on?
No, I think you've done a wonderful job there, Pete, walking through what's happened. I just like the guys online today. I'd like to challenge them. I'd like to challenge you to start to get out there and offer services that clients really value, that not only will provide lucrative income opportunities for your firm, but will help support the relationship with clients. I think I'd like to see you get out there and start to, pick 3, 4, 5 clients and start down the advisory pathway and see how it goes. And I sincerely hope that over that process, you have as much fun as I did over the last 20 odd years doing this. But also just finally, thank you to Peter and ESS BizTools for the opportunity of being online today, and more than happy to take any questions through whatever means it might be, email or through Peter after this session. Thanks again.
Thank you very much, Mark. We have no questions, so hopefully we've answered all the questions. Thank you very much for being with us, and I look forward to talking to you shortly, especially if you've decided to become a subscriber to ESS BizTools. But if you've got any other questions, please don't hesitate to send them through to us. Thank you. And for those of you in the areas subjected to lockdowns, please stay safe, and hopefully all of these problems will be over in the not too distant future. Okay, have a great day. Thank you. Goodbye. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Pete.